You know, Mrs. Puff, she has PTSD.
Really?
John, have you heard about this crazy SpongeBob theory about mental illness and how each character represents a different mental illness?
Actually, I have not.
Dude, it's absolutely bonkers, but it makes more sense the more you learn about it.
Okay.
You know, Mrs. Puff.
Right. Yeah. Big fish.
Big fish. She's like the boating instructor.
Yeah.
Okay. She has PTSD.
Really?
Yeah. Let me tell you why.
Okay.
Do you know what PTSD is?
Break it down for me.
So it's basically a mental and emotional condition from something super stressful happening to you. And as a result, you just constantly remember this experience. It's like
you're
flashbacks.
like constantly reliving this like terrible experience over and over and over again.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. The cause is usually war, like, I mean, or any kind of trauma. But we think about it in war where it's like that's
like the example everyone.
Like you hear helicopters, like, oh, I'm back in Nam or something.
Yeah.
You know? But for Mrs. Puff, it's not quite Nam.
I'm trying to like connect the dots.
It's boating school.
Okay.
Basically, Mrs. Puff is constantly being in a car prone to crash because every person that is behind the wheel is just incredibly inexperienced or terrible at driving.
Yeah, they always fail. Every single time.
Always fail.
What?
Right? So there's just one example of Mrs. Puff having PTSD, and it's in season 2, episode 16. When SpongeBob approaches Mrs. Puff's table, she literally has a meltdown and starts screaming and spasming as if she was back in the car with SpongeBob, because SpongeBob and her car ride was so traumatic that she like relived it and just could not be anywhere near him because SpongeBob was a trigger for the PTSD.
Right. I think I remember that. It was almost like it literally looked like she was having a bad dream. Like that's how it came off as a child, but it was actually her brain triggering that response.
Yeah, and having
Holy
PTSD.
Shit.
It's only until SpongeBob snaps his fingers that she like comes out of it.
Right.
And that's like the equivalent of, some kind of shock for PTSD people to like or people who are experiencing PTSD to get out of the
mental state. Like you need a disruption to like bring you back to reality.
To break the thought loop, right? So sometimes it's a loud noise like a snap. Sometimes it's cold water. Obviously, these are very archaic methods, but sometimes it does work.
Right.
And then there's another episode. So season 1, episode 4, Patrick has to help SpongeBob pass his first boating test.
Right.
Big surprise, he doesn't. And there are 3 scenes alone in this episode that I think are important to reference. The first is when Mrs. Puff comes out of the ambulance to go into the boat with SpongeBob. So she puts on her helmet for safety and asks him, what's the first thing you do? And then right after, she puts both arms over her head, like almost basically bracing for SpongeBob to fail again.
And I can remember like trembling in her voice. You can hear her expecting something to go wrong.
Exactly. And then the next scene, SpongeBob starts the car and Mrs. Puff just freaks out until SpongeBob has to actually calm her down because she's having like a PTSD break.
Right. Is that when she's like puffing up and out?
So, yeah. And then she starts looking around like this, like as if she had been temporarily transported to the many memories of being in a car crash thanks to SpongeBob.
Wow.
And the last scene I'll mention from this episode is when Patrick tells SpongeBob to tell Mrs. Puff to put it in drive and begins to lift his foot saying, floor it. Mrs. Puff flips out again, proving she has PTSD that triggers around SpongeBob.
Wow, that is crazy. I also came up with like a supplemental theory to that. So maybe she was like a blowfish or a pufferfish, right? Maybe they made her a pufferfish as like a metaphorical characteristic to represent when she hyperventilates from her PTSD.
Wow, like the deep breathing.
Yeah, because that's like any other fish, like you can't see them breathing that way. But with Mrs. Puff, like it's
part of her character and part of her literal like biology.
So maybe they designed her character that way so that way they could represent her hyperventilating because of her PTSD.
That's nuts. This is fish PTSD.
You tell us in the comments.
That one's crazy, but have you heard the other SpongeBob theory where Patrick has multiple personality disorder?
I have not.
There's evidence, let me tell you. So multiple personality disorder, basically, or dissociative identity disorder, is when you have more than one personality besides your own or like your main personality, whatever, right? Patrick clearly has this because there are scenes sprinkled in the show where Patrick acts smart and then later acts like he doesn't remember it at all.
Oh.
So one example is in this episode, Squidtastic Voyage, season 4, episode 15, where out of nowhere, Patrick says, we can filter the CO2 through our ballast tanks, refine the engines and ride the shockwave out of here. And then he smiles with his arms crossed for a few seconds. And then Sandy confirms he was right and says they're going with Patrick's plan. And then he's like, what plan? right?
Classic.
And I think it's because he has multiple personality disorder. He doesn't like there's a version of Patrick that is smart.
And that like almost won't allow the smart version to come out all the time. He like almost wants to forget it or something.
Exactly. And according to this study, right, and there's this quote, the memory loss associated with DID, dissociative identity disorder, isn't recognized a lot by people around us and is something to which neurotypical people try to compare, but they can't. It's waking up and seeing you spent $500 with no recollection of it and nothing to show for it. And so in the same way, Patrick is like, said the super smart statement, but has no recollection and nothing to show for it.
And is it like they can't understand that that's happening to them? It's almost like, what I see is blue, you see is red.
Yeah,
and they can't see it.
What I see, what has happened to you, so it's just a completely other person having a life. I have just other than when we're seeing each other, I don't know what you're doing in your, when you're not there. It's like that, but we are actually the same personality living in the same body. So it's possible to go from one personality to another and not have the same memories as that first personality, which is what Patrick is experiencing, right?
Wow.
So there's another episode, Hello Bikini Bottom, season 8, episode 26. At the end of the episode, after SpongeBob and Squidward sing their song, they think the crowd came for them, only to have Patrick correct them, saying they came to see the meteor shower that passes through the aura borealis, getting a once-in-a-lifetime light show. So basically, like, he knows how the stars operate, apparently.
Right, yeah.
Now, to explain both episodes of Patrick Smart Pants, season 4, episode 8, when Patrick gets his brain switched with brain coral and library cards.
I literally remember that. He fell off of a cliff, right? And dropped his brain.
Exactly. When Patrick gets his brain switched, then he starts reading some books in SpongeBob's library. And I think in that episode, Patrick Smart Pants, SpongeBob didn't actually pick up brain coral. And actually what happened is the impact to his head further enhanced his intelligence and allowed his other personality, Smart Patrick, to come more to the forefront.
Wow. So literally, basically, it was like we all thought that he had his brain swapped with something, but in actuality, he was just shocked into his other personality.
Yeah. Basically, he gained acquired savant syndrome, which is actually something that happens a lot where someone will like hit their head and then be really good at math or starts to speak French or something. Like,
really?
Yeah. That's actually like been documented a bunch of different times.
Wow.
Yeah. And then there's this other episode, The Card, season 6, episode 13, where Patrick does a bunch of stupid stuff while in the custody of a rare number 54 talking card. When SpongeBob asks why he walked in Goo Lagoon, he literally says, SpongeBob, you can't always expect my usual brand of stupidity. I like to mix it up, keep you on your toes. And so that's literally being like almost admitting that he might know that he has multiple personality disorder.
That's like almost an exact direct reference.
Yeah. When he's keeping SpongeBob on his toes, he's basically just messing with SpongeBob, doing stupid stuff to make him worry. And then at the end of the episode, he's like, okay, like enough is enough. I won't do that anymore. But this is probably the work of Patrick's smart personality, just to mess with people around him and make these mind games up to make himself feel superior. And so basically we have two different Patricks, Smart Patrick and regular Patrick.
Wow. This is a mind-blowing theory. And to be honest, I feel like one line from the whole show sums it up. Do you know the line I'm talking about?
No, what's the line?
The inner workings of my mind are an enigma.
Dude, true.
Right?
True. They are an enigma.
It is an enigma. Bureaucracy at its finest and how to circumvent it. A Reddit story guide. It was Italy. The year, 1995.
I love how that starts.
The year was 1995.
It's a perfect start.
Italy, in a little Italian bistro just below the farmer's market.
It was a sepia tone, and a man in a dark fedora was sipping an espresso.
Yeah, well, smoking his cigarettes. And he was thinking to himself,
Mamma mia.
Mamma mia. Internet was dial-up only and really expensive. One municipality decided to give away free dial-up internet to any citizen who asked for it. The procedure to get an account was to call the appropriate municipal office by phone or to get an appointment, or go to the office, show your ID, and have a username/password. I was walking past the office and thought, hey, why not?
Hey, why not?
Why not? Come on. I went in and there was a small desk in the big empty room with a sign that said hyperbole.
Hyperbole.
I think could be that or hyperbole. It's one of those. The name of a free internet initiative. So that's the name of the initiative. I asked the clerk who was free and if I could sign up for free internet. She asked me if I had an appointment. I told her that I did not. I was just walking by and decided to go in. And since there was no one waiting, I asked if I could do it without an appointment. She told me that I had to take an appointment. So I asked her, okay, can you give me an appointment? She told me, you must call the phone number to get one. That is the only way. So I walked 3 meters 10 feet back. I picked up my cell phone and I called the number, to which she answered the phone herself.
Oh my God.
And gave me an appointment for 10 minutes from now. I don't know if she actually noticed that it was me calling her from the same exact room.
Dude, you gotta love it. Like, the bureaucracy is so heavy that it's like, just speak to me on another device and it will be fine. But it's also like not even like, I would understand. It's like, oh, we have to be in the system or whatever. But this is like in 1995. There is no system.
There is no system.
There's no system. This is ridiculous.
And it's like, okay, I'll meet you in 10 minutes. It's like, oh, it's okay. Like, I'll just take you now. Like, hello? I went back to her desk and I said, I know I'm a little early. Sorry. Can I have internet access credentials? And this is how I got free internet access.
Wow. OP, work in the system. Getting through that bureaucracy.
Also, free internet. That's lit.
That's a great, I mean, it's dial-up, but.
True, but at the time.
1995, that's pretty lit.
You know, you're just loading google.com.
Yeah. What else was around in 1995?
Yellow Books.
The
website.
Peace.
Peace.